Welcome back, everyone. All right, we're here at episode 26. So this episode is basically going to be built on why I believe, being in your comfort zone can actually kill your potential and can actually harm you more than help you. So in this episode, we're going to take a deep dive into, a comfort zone. What is a comfort zone, in my opinion, and kind of just, what I experienced throughout my 20s, essentially, and how me getting out my comfort zone and making that my new comfort zone really took me to places that, I never really thought I would be at once I graduated from college. So here we are. Of course, you know how we do it. We're going to kick it off with the intro. So first, we're going to talk about the war in Iran. As we saw, the peace talks kind of went dead, and then now we're having bomb after bomb. So we're kind of, going back at it with Iran, Israel, and the United States, which of course, we just hit the highest level for oil prices since the war started. So as we see now, it kind of cooled off just a bit. I see gas is just under $4, but it's still highly elevated compared to where it was before the war. I know Trump admin is trying to sign the tax exempt for the fuel prices to bring them down. That will be temporary. That'll be a couple months. But if we weren't essentially in this, then oil prices wouldn't have gone up. But for here or there. So gas did hit over $4 in West Virginia. I predicted that if the war continued, the gas prices can go to $4.50. So we'll see where it goes. Again, it's down temporary right now, but as the conflict continues to escalate, we'll see what happens. And what is this leading to? This leading to higher diesel prices, higher oil prices, higher gas prices, which then goes eventually into the products and services, which I'll get to here in a moment. The blockade still remains. And with the blockade remaining, it's going to drive oil prices up even higher as it continues to happen. Whether they got nuclear weapons or not, I don't know. That's not for really here to say. I'm just more talking about the financial side. But last thing I heard was back in June last year, we obliterated their nuclear program. So take that as you like. As I said, diesel prices are skyrocketing, and usually diesel prices, when we have these type of conflicts, doesn't get to this magnitude. But when you shut off 90% of the oil trade, yeah, it starts to really have an impact. So what's this going to do? Well, it's going to impact jet fuel, which we're already seeing. We just saw Spirit announce bankruptcy. It's going to affect farming. So we already saw an increase in foreclosures and farming, and that was even before this escalation started and this war happened, right? So now we're really starting to see farmers really feel the impact. And then what's that going to do, right? That's then going to pass the prices on to us, the consumer, right? Because these farmers, they're not going to, continue farming and continue growing and handling crops at the rate they did when their diesel prices are $5 to $6 a gallon, right? So they're going to pass that price on. And as we saw recently, the CPI report just came out. Inflation went up. I already said in my prior videos that, I had a feeling that inflation was going to go up based on the war and based on the tariffs. So everyone was saying, well, the tariffs wasn't impacting. If you go watch my prior videos, I said before, the reason why the tariffs didn't have much of an impact was because businesses bought bulk supply, like they bought bulk inventory. So they held on to that inventory and now they're running out. So when they're running out, now they have to buy at these tariff level prices, right? So when they buy these tariff level prices, guess what that do? That starts to shoot up inflation. Of course, energy was the biggest driver in inflation. So, you have plans for data centers, you have, the war in Iran's really impacting that. So like, it's just a big mix on everything. But one thing I've noticed is it hasn't really impacted the markets, right? So if you pay attention to the markets, you actually saw that there was a downturn in the market, and now the market is just shooting up and up and up. I mean, the market had one of the best months in recent history last month, and we're still seeing that drive up. Even yesterday, the market was down like 2%, and then it started to rebound towards the end of the day. So the market's being real resilient, but we're feeling it economically. So people think that the market dictates the economy. They're tied in, but it's not the same thing. Like, we can still be doing bad and the market still could be going up. Because if you think about it, I mean, look at where we're at now. Prices are up, housing's up, people aren't having kids, energy's up, gas is up, oil is up, goods are up, services are up, credit is up, private credit is going through the roof. People are using their credit cards to pay for their groceries. So, and then we had basically the economic head of the White House come and say, well, Americans still spending. They're using their credit cards. They're still spending. Like, what a mind-blowing statement to make. On top of Trump saying just yesterday, I don't care about the financial situation of Americans. We care about, getting that nuke. That's you can't do that. Like, you have people who are actually out here struggling, and then prices just keep going up and up and up. People can't afford daycare, so you may have single moms out here who can't afford daycare, or it's impacting their job because they're a single mother, and they kids are going to, really affect your schedule. Your schedule goes with your kid's schedule is your schedule, right? So a lot of single mothers are being impacted by this, and it's all in the data, right? So just keep in mind, like, when they're talking about the stock market's at the all-time high, we're doing this for the 401k. All right, prices are still through the roof, right? So not the average daily American gets into the stock market. So you can't use that as a way to say, oh, we're fine. When if you actually look at the numbers, we're not fine. Or debt just skyrocketed past GDP. That's a big concern. Like, these things are massive concerns right now with the United States, and the rate that we're going at, it's not sustainable. The debt is just going through the roof. And then you have them come out and say, like, I just want to make this clear, right? So when you have these presidents come out and say, well, the stock market's at the all-time high. If you just pay attention and follow the history of the stock market hit an all-time high under Bush. The stock market hit an all-time high under Obama. The stock market hit on all-time high under Trump's first term, Biden's first term, like when Biden was in office, and now Trump in the second term. The stock market's going to continue hitting all-time highs because that's what the stock market does. If you look at the history of the stock market, there's crashes, but if you widen out the history of the stock market, what does it do? It goes up. So yeah, it's going to be at all-time high because guess what? That's what it does. That's the stock market. That's the name of the game. Like I said in prior videos, you have too many powerful people, and you have too much banks, you have too many industries, too many hedge funds in the stock market for them just to collapse and not meet all-time highs. But here or there, you just got to do your homework, right? You got to do your homework because we're getting to a point where eventually we're going to have to do something. The bond market is so bad right now. Like, it's one of the worst levels in like 200 years. Like, the bond market is supposed to be a safe place for you to put your money in, because guess what? You give the government money, the government will take that, and then they'll pay you back, and they'll pay you at a certain interest. What's happening in the bond market, though, is our debt is getting so high, and we are abusing our power with so many of our allies. No one is putting money into U.S. bonds because they're not confident that the U.S. is going to pay them out. The U.S. has always, always, always paid out their bonds. Always. But when you're getting this far into debt to where, like, your interest payments are skyrocketing as your first expense as a country, something's going to happen. And guess what? They ain't going to save you, because if you didn't learn your lesson, now I was too young. I wasn't even invested, but at least I could do my homework. I could do my research. What happened in '08 when everything crashed, right? They didn't save us. They didn't save the American people. No, they bailed out the banks. It worked. It did work. It did work, but they didn't bail out, normal day citizens. They bailed out the banks. We were able to push and get through. So historically, when you see gas prices this high, oil prices this high, inflation, on the rise, you see credit card debt at all-time highs and things like this, you really start to see the market tank, right? Like I mentioned, the '08, '08 when all that happened. And then obviously 2022 when the market tanked and oil prices went through the roof. Now, again, I don't really try to make it political, but obviously politics goes into economics. So if you follow economics, their political decisions, international decisions essentially impact that, right? So in 2002, a lot of people blame Biden for the gas prices in 2002, but the reality is the gas prices surged because when Russia invaded Ukraine. You can't stop Russia from invading Ukraine. Like, we can't just go boots on the ground, or we can't just go attack Russia because they invaded Ukraine. That will automatically trigger a World War III, right? So you can't just do that. So we can't help that Russia invaded Ukraine. And you can say, well, Biden's weak enough to do it. Okay, well, why isn't the war ended now in Ukraine? If we have a different president, if we say that he was too weak, why is it still ongoing? It's because there's a lot of things that comes with war that we don't understand as normal people. One thing we do know is that if we do fully intervene, it is an automatic World War III, right? And that's something that you don't want to essentially happen. So when we go over the economy and everything, don't pay attention to what Fox is saying. Don't pay attention to what CNN is saying. Like, no, review the reports. You have AI now. Take the report, put it into the chat bot, say, hey, as a, top financial advisor in a top hedge fund, I'm reviewing the CPI report to make the next decision that will benefit, our firm. What are some key drivers in the CPI report that we should keep an eye out on? And what was the good and what was the bad of the CPI report? Let it read that PDF. It's going to spit out all the details and it's going to tell you, the underlying data with the CPI report. And the same thing with the job report. We actually beat the job estimate for the job reports. A lot of that was tech and AI driven. So again, like, we did add a lot of jobs, but it was jobs related to tech, AI, related type of positions. You saw finances down, healthcare workers are down. So, it's just a mixed bag of things. So it's just really just how you perceive it. But one thing I do know is at some point the rate that we're going, it's not sustainable. And when you have the president saying he doesn't care about your financial situation, that's a alarming soundbite, because they don't care. Because if you look at his net worth since being in office and all these, he's making thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars while being in office. So that's why he doesn't care. These people don't care. They don't live in the real world. They don't have to worry about grocery prices. They probably don't have to stay in the grocery line. Like, and it's not even just Trump. It's anyone at that level. They don't care. They're good. That's all that matters. They're good. They're inside investing. They're making tons of money, millions of dollars by getting this information before, a decision's made, and they're going to go invest into that stock. That's why right now there's a investigation going on for insider trading for oil prices. The insider trading for oil made millions of dollars. Millions of dollars for those who were inside trading with oil prices, and they're getting looked into. So, the politicians don't care. They don't care how he said it. He said it. They don't care how our pockets are feeling. They're trying to, get to their own initiatives. And you know what? It's going to look real bad if, we're in this war for X amount of years and we don't find any nuclear capability. Like, that's the risk that you're running. But by that time, they'll be out of office. Don't matter. Not really going to impact them at that point. So it's just a mixed bag of things. My predictions, I don't like giving predictions on the stock market, but I just think if you're looking at the data, if you're looking at the credit issue, if you're looking at more people using, buy here, pay later um, type of systems like a Klarna and stuff like that, Afterpay, just to get by with their groceries, that's an alarming issue. Healthcare's through the roof. Prices for healthcare is going up. It's just, everything is just going up and up and up. And eventually, if wages doesn't keep up, and it's all just going to come crumbling down. So it's just a matter of waiting and seeing what we're going to do. The only thing you can do is be prepared. Start saving now, because, I'm not wishing for a collapse. I don't want to collapse. There's a lot of bad things that happen when it collapses, not just in your pockets, but mental health wise as well, for those who's been saving forever. And then now they're going ahead into a collapse, or those who are close to retirement and now they can't retire because we're, the markets collapsed, the economy collapsed. It happens every so often. And if you look at the data from now to where we're at in the early 2000s, like it's a very, very similar. Um, and it is kind of scary to see what's going on. So again, people are going to spend. That's the United States way. We're going to spend, but once spending slows down, because spending will eventually slow down, that will just have a tidal wave of foreclosures, tidal waves of bankruptcies, tidal waves of missed payments, late payments on mortgages, late payments on credit cards, late payments on loans. You're seeing it now. You just got to do your research. Just prepare yourself, because once it happens, it's going to come quick. It's going to hit hard. We're all going to feel it. So, but yeah, that's basically all I have regarding the markets right now. And, the war in Iran, it's crazy. It's crazy. So moving on before I actually dive into the video, as you saw, if you're paying attention to sports, NFL draft just conducted. So, if you're into fantasy football, Jeremiah Love's going to be your 101. Now, when it comes to, Love's value right now, crowded backfield. But again, if you're doing dynasty, you're probably looking at Jeremiah Love as a long-term hold. This draft class is kind of weak to me. Like, I didn't really, just on the offensive side, I love what Dallas did, getting Caleb Downs, training with Miami to get up a spot to go get Downs, and then later, securing the line with Lawrence. I think that was a great first round. I'm excited for what Dallas is doing on the defensive end. Dallas franchise tag Pickens and signed Pickens, for the year. I think they just need to figure out a way how to bring Pickens in long term, just based on the season he had with Dak last year. I think that was really fun to watch. And if our defense goes from one of the worst defense in history to even mid pack, then Dallas can be in pretty good shape if their offense looks like it did last year. Miami Heat, they just took the 13th spot in the NBA draft. It's time to call it. It's time to trade everything. It's time to blow it up. It is time to find ways to go get superstars coming in and just blow it up. Giannis is back on the block. I know he's been tied to Miami. I mean, who hasn't been tied to Miami at this point? Everyone gets tied to Miami when they are available for trade. So I can see Giannis on the block. I can see Kawhi being moved. LeBron's a restricted free agent. Can you get him for a year just to bring more morale to the team? You don't really want a 42-year-old to lead your team, but the season he had, he's still a top player in the league. Boston will be interesting to see what they do after getting bounced. Philly, it'll be interesting to see what they do after getting bounced. So Knicks, I know that, Giannis mentioned Knicks, but the way they're looking right now, they don't really have a reason to move off of anything. I think Giannis wants to stay in the East, so that kind of helps Miami's odds, but I still think there's other teams out there with way better packages than Miami. So Giannis would essentially have to say he wants to go play in Miami. That's the only way, because he's on this contract year. It's a little different than the Dame situation, right? I've been hearing about the Dame situation. Dame's not Giannis. Dame's not a two-time MVP. Dame's not an NBA champion. Dame's not a final MVP. No disrespect to Dame. I actually love Dame. I love what he brings to the game, but he's just not Giannis. So Giannis is going to demand way more in assets. And if teams don't feel comfortable that Giannis is going to sign, long term after this year and he's going to opt out, why am I going to give you all those assets? Unless you be Toronto, take the risk for the 1 year, get a ship, and call it a day. But, you don't really see that in the NBA. Here or there, I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to get started with the video. Just a little bit longer intro, but there's a lot going on right now. A lot of data that's showing that America is heading in the wrong direction. When it comes to the economy, you're seeing people overseas starting to partner with each other, taking money out of America's economy, and that's why you're seeing the bond market so low. So yeah, it's interesting. So we just have to wait and see. The only thing you can do is prepare yourself. Disclaimer: the information provided on this podcast is for informational and entertainment purposes only. It should not be considered as financial advice. We are not licensed financial professionals, and any opinions shared are based on personal experiences and research. As always, do your own due diligence and consult with a certified financial advisor or professional before making any investment decisions. All right, so number one, what is your comfort zone? So when I mean comfort zone, I'm not really talking about, you know, your comfort zone as in like your house is your comfort zone, your bedroom's your comfort zone. You had a long day at work. You got kids in the house. You got your kids, husband, wife, whoever in the house. Just want a minute to yourself. So just give yourself a couple minutes sitting in the car after work in the driveway. That's not what I mean about your comfort zone. Basically, the comfort zone is what you're doing day to day and the habits that you carry every day. So what I mean by that, to me, it's like going to work with no intention to grow, no intention to learn, and just being comfortable and happy in where you're at. Which for most people, okay, like if that's what you want to do, that's what you want to do. But just because that's what you want to do doesn't necessarily mean that it doesn't, you know, it doesn't impact you, right? So this is what I mean. A lot of people complain about pay. A lot of people complain about, not moving up and things like this and things like that. What are you doing to show that you have the capability to do so? If you're just coming in every day and just doing your job, that's completely fine. That's completely fine. But don't expect that because you're doing your job description, that you're going to get a raise, that you're going to get a promotion, that you're going to get recognized because you're just coming in, you're doing what you're supposed to do. Again, completely fine, but the point of the video is that it does kill your potential. And it not necessarily have to be about work. It could be about, life in general. Like, what are you doing, essentially on your free time? If you're saying that, you want more money, if you're saying that you want this, you're saying that you want to do better for yourself, you got to get out your comfort zone. And that's just what it is. Like, you have to get out your comfort zone and make the uncomfortable comfortable. I know this because I've done it in my life. I've done it, I'll go over and later in the video, but I've done it outside and inside of work. So you got to make your comfort zone basically uncomfortable. And once you do that, you'll learn a whole new thing. You learn a lot. Your mind starts to expand. You're absorbing a bunch of information, and then you're really tailoring those habits because now you're like, okay, I can do this. I can go get more. I can do this. I can go get more. I can go talk to people now. I can be comfortable making a phone call. I can be comfortable sending an email. I can be comfortable, creating a craft and bringing my craft to the world and to the public or to the locals to go ahead and try to purchase my product or my services. So, which then starts to build that legacy and it starts to build habits, and those new habits you're going to start carrying every day. So when I'm talking about comfort zone, it's really not just, like I said, being in your bedroom, right? We all have a safe house. We all need to have a space essentially just to debrief. That's very important. But at the same time, you know, it's just basically being intentional with your time, essentially what it is. It's being intentional with your time and trying to grow and find other ways to make money. Because if you think about it, if you get a raise at work, if you're beating inflation, that's always a plus. If you do a side hustle and you're saving and you want to take your family on a trip, that's also a plus as well. Like, it's your life, it's how you want to live it, but just know that, once you start getting uncomfortable, you got your back against the wall. Like, I listened to Eric Thomas. Eric Thomas said, once you get your back against the wall, that's when he started making his best decisions of his life. And I took that and I'm like, okay, I get what he's saying, because when you're comfortable, you don't have a grind. When you're uncomfortable, that's when you have to grind. That's when you have to prove it to yourself. And it's like, I'm already here, so I might as well stick with it, right? Because once you quit, that's it. You don't know if you're going to be successful once you quit. So you kind of just got to stick it out. But it makes you do research. It makes you learn. It makes you grow. Not only grow, in your mind, but grow as an individual. So when you're getting out and getting out your comfort zone, making that your new, you really will start seeing the potential that you actually have to bring to the world and bring to your job. So you hear me talk about this on my podcast plenty of times. Fear impacts you more than you know. You've heard me talk about fear since day one. Day one. Fear is the biggest factor on why people stay in their comfort zone, because you're feared to be judged. You're fear to see if you're actually good enough. The fear of failure. But to me, like, this is how I look at it. Who cares? If you're trying to work on yourself, trying to grow as a person, you're trying to put in, day out, change your habits into being a better person for not only you, but for your family and for your community. Who cares? Why should you care about what people have to say about you when you're the one that's trying to grow and bring value back to the world in a positive way. Why do you care? Those are the same people who are judging you, are the same people on the couch doing absolutely nothing with their time, but judging about you, thinking about you. Like, that's the thing. So when people judge, okay, the thing is, I'm gonna prove you wrong. I don't care what you have to say. Like, I don't necessarily care. If I cared, I wouldn't have moved. If I cared, I wouldn't have started my own business. If I cared, I wouldn't have went and got a career. Like, that's the thing. If I cared, that would have held me back so much more than just saying, look, ain't your life, my life. I'm going to do what I want to do. If I want to improve as a person, that's exactly what I'm going to do. If you don't want to support that, that's cool. You ain't got to support it. But don't be sitting here with me if things work out. Like, don't be doing that. That's not what we do. So again, work on yourself, celebrate yourself, believe in yourself. Because if you don't celebrate yourself, you don't believe in yourself, no one's going to do that for you. So you got to believe and celebrate yourself, and you got to put the work in, and you got to stay consistent at it. It ain't going to be easy. If it was easy, everyone would be able to do it. What they're judging you for is what most people don't even think about doing in their life. They don't understand. They don't know because they haven't done their research. And then they're not in your day to day. They don't pay your bills. They're not, they don't control your life. They don't tell you what to do. You have to have that backbone to say, I don't care what you think. I don't care what you say. I'm going to do me. And guess what? If I fail, all right, cool. As long as I know I gave it everything I had, I'll accept that failure, because that failure, you can look at it as a failure. You can look at it as a learned lesson. If you look at all these big time corporations, if you look at, a bunch of entrepreneurs, they failed before being successful plenty of times. A lot of them have. If you go look, a lot of people failed before, getting the opportunity that they needed, but they didn't give up and didn't care what other people had to say, because they knew the potential that they had. And you have to keep that same mindset. If you want to grow as a person or a professional, you got to take some educated risk in order to maximize your potential and to grow. And because once you take those, you're going to learn from the mistakes and tailor that into your next adventure of whatever that is. Right? So, being fearful does hurt you a lot as well, because we're so accustomed to social media. We're so accustomed to, what did other people think, or who cares? Who cares? It's what can you do for yourself, for your family, to make them okay. And as long as you're doing that, you're good. Who cares? I don't care if you are assistant general manager at a McDonald's. I don't care. Guess what? You worked your way up there. You worked hard. Again, you got your comfort zone to go be that. Like, it does not matter to me. So it's just, are you growing every day? Are you trying to learn something every day? Are you taking just maybe 30 minutes to an hour just to grow? Because over time, just how bad habits compound, so do good habits. So again, fear is one of the biggest things on top of your comfort, is why you're not getting out that comfort zone. So once you buckle up and just say, okay, I can do this. This is me. I know I can do this. Go for it. And if it fails, why did it fail? What system failed? What do you think you could have done better? And what can you take and apply that to your next lesson, to your next journey? So again, people are going to judge, no matter if they judge good or bad, right? People are going to say good things. People are going to say bad things about the same you, about your same work, or whatever it is. You got to block the noise, because if it's working for you, it's working for you. You got to block the noise. All right. So I'll close out with this. The reason why I made this video, because I think it's important. And I think it's basically something that, like, looking back to, because I'm about to be 29, so I'm about to hit my 30s, so I'm just kind of reflecting on I was just reflecting on my 20s the other day, and where I was at 20 to where I am now. Like I said, I would have never ever in my life would have believed the amount of growth and maturity that I've gained over the past 9 years. And I'm just being very truthful. Like, I would have never I thought I was just going to stay in Erie my whole life at the point and just kind of figure it out from there. So if you want to talk about fear, I was scared as hell to move somewhere I ain't never been, right? That decision was the best decision of my life. I had to sacrifice everything. I had to sacrifice my family. I had to sacrifice everything I knew, everything, basically my life, and start anew. Scary as hell, right? What did that get me? Got me a career, got me a house, got me a wife, got me a kid, got me 2 beautiful kids, got me a great family, a great circle. I met a lot of new people. My friend group is amazing. So like it got me everything that, I can ask for, right? So making that move, it was hard. It was hard. Coming here at first, it was hard, but you know what? I knew I came here for a mission. I knew I came here to work on myself, and I knew it wasn't going to be easy, but I had to stick it out because because I had people telling me left and right not to do it. You'll be back. Okay, you want to bet? Same people who told me I'd be back haven't seen me in years. So, when you do this, it's basically what sacrifices are you willing to make? How far are you willing to go to get uncomfortable to make it your new comfort and grow? By me making that decision, and I'm like, okay, if I could do that, I can go try anything I want to try, right? I mean, I moved my whole life essentially. I came here with a Mustang drop top. I packed everything in that Mustang drop top and came. So in my mind, I'm like, if I can do that, oh yeah, I can do anything I put my mind to. It's gonna take time. It's gonna take years. Took me 10 plus years to kind of get where I'm at now. But you know what? I understood the assignment at the time. What, was I perfect? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Like I told you, I was very immature in my early 20s. Like I'm sure most of us are. I made a lot of financial mistakes. I made a lot of dumb decisions, a lot of dumb purchases. But you know what? I just told myself a couple years ago, I'm going to take all that, take it as a learning lesson and start growing and start paying my future and not paying for my past. So all that said, I got very out of my comfort zone. And then now at work, I've been moving up and up and up over the course of my career because I took risk in my career to get uncomfortable. I could have easily stayed where I was at and be completely fine. Like, I could have easily just been doing me and being completely fine. But I'm like, I want more. I want to get paid more. I want that responsibility. And in order to get that, I know I have to stand out. How am I going to stand out? It depends on what industry it's in, depends on where you work, it depends on what you're doing, it depends on what business you have. But you got to find a way to stand out and you got to find a way to have impact in a positive way on others. So, I life has been lifing the past couple of years. I lost a lot, I lost two men that, meant a lot to me. But at the same time, life's also been good. I've been blessed with the things that I have. I know that without hard work, I wouldn't have what I have. But in the day, that's the reward I got from taking the biggest risk of my life. So that's the mindset. That's going to be the mindset. Most people don't do it, or if they do it, they come back. So just know people are going to judge you. People are going to talk about you. Throw that all out the window. Get rid of that fear any way you can. Take that risk, make it an educational risk. And if you fail, take from it, learn from it, do it again. So, but hey, don't forget to, like, share, and subscribe. So I've been really trying hard, to push this content out. So, thank you for all the support. This is episode 26. I didn't even think I was going to make it this far, to be honest with you. But, here we are. So, for those who, tune into the channel, I appreciate it. I hope you're, getting a lot of good information. I hope you're making money too. I hope you are seeing some gains. So, but that's all for me. I hope y'all enjoy y'all day. And again, don't be fearful.